August meeting of the Metro Waste Management District for August 23rd. We will call it to order at 5:32 p.m. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, board members. Thank you for attending. First item of business is the approval of the July 26th meeting minutes. Have all the board members had a chance to review the minutes, and does anyone have any suggested changes, corrections, or deletions to those minutes?
I'll move approval.
We have a motion by Mary Rose.
I second it, Deetra.
Second by Deetra. We have a motion and a second. So is there any additional discussion about the minutes? Welcome. We have Carl here also. Welcome, Carl. Carl, since you came in at the last minute there, do you have any suggested changes, corrections, deletions, additions to the minutes for the July 26th meeting?
Excuse me, no, sir.
Okay, hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the July 26 minutes signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay or no. Hearing none, the minutes for the July 26 meeting are approved. Next item, Pete, is the budget report.
Okay, so we didn't have a budget report last month. And I beg your apologies for not being at the meeting last month. So this budget report brings us up to date year to date. So we did change the format somewhat, getting better with our new system. So as far as where we're at currently, we have a budget of 1.452 million. Our current expenditures is 60,249, or excuse me, our current income is 60,249 for the current period. Year to date, we're at 64,000. So we're, it's way early for us to be getting much of our income. So, it'll fluctuate up and down. Expenses wise, I think we're right on target. We have our personnel expenses, operating expenses, running about where we would think that it would be. Contract and rental, supplies, capital. All of this comes down to, I think this past period, we had $37,000 worth of expenses and $102,900 for the year. So these are expenses that are over 5,000. We have Veolia, which 8,330, which is contracted. The Huntington National Bank is the front load truck. Another couple of payments for Veolia. Field Trip, which is the company that does the educational campaign for litter. Emerge Technologies is Retrack. We approved that, I think, 2 meetings ago. That's the one that allows all of our licensees to report their weights and tonnages. And I think that's all the categories there. If anybody has any questions about the budget, please let me know and I'll be happy to answer.
Questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Pete. I see no correspondence to the board. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So we'll move on to action items.
The first action item is memorandum of agreement between the Waste Management District, Louisville Metro Government, detailing the district budgeting and expenses procedures. We've looked at this a couple of times now, and we sent it back to Metro Government to see if they had any recommended changes, and they do not. So at this point, we are back to the board. I don't think that the board had any recommended changes, so this is basically a straight renewal of the past MOA. The only change was going from a 3 to 5, which is, we've kind of debated it back and forth. I don't know that there's any advantages or disadvantages, so I'm still open to changing that. That's a really quick change in the document. If anybody has any questions, please let me know.
And the MOA basically is, for anybody who doesn't know it out there, that's basically the agreement between Metro government and the Waste Management District as to how they maintain our budgeting within their system, how they help us manage the money and what we do for them and what they do for us, correct?
That is correct.
Are there questions, comments from the board? Okay, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve or we enter this MOA with Metro government.
We have a motion to approve by Mary Rose. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Carl. We have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none. Pete, would you call the roll, please?
Mary Rose Evans,
Yes.
Carl Brazley,
Yes.
Deidre Shipley,
Yes.
Robert Lee.
Yes, I am having trouble with my camera at this point,
Your camera?
with my video, yeah. Are you seeing me?
Yeah, we're seeing you
Oh.
fine.
Okay, I'm not seeing myself. Okay, good.
So the motion passes unanimously.
Did you record a vote from me?
Bob Schindler.
Yes,
Yeah, we'll get you the vote. Sorry about that.
not a problem. Okay, second item.
Next item on the agenda is the litter abatement grant agreement. This is an agreement that we've had running with the state since, I believe, 2006. This is the annual, application that we must give to them. This brings approximately between $380,000 and $420,000 to the waste district to be used for litter collection in the community. Where it's been used in the past is giving that money to Metro government to fund what's called part of the Clean Collab, which cleans major arterials around the city annually. And this is just supplemental to their people. So we're supplying about 6 employees through the grant. Metro has, I think, 13 that they provide, and they go around. Now, it also has paid for some funding for Brightside through another MOA, which we signed earlier this year. And that has the cash or trash for cash program, which has been implemented. I'm not sure how much participation that we're getting. I need to get an update on that. However, this is an annual thing, and it funds, it can only be used for roadside cleanups. We can't use it inside of parks. We can't use it to pick up yard waste. It can only be used what is classified as litter. So it's something that we've done for years and years. So I would ask that the board go ahead and approve this so we can send it to Frankfurt. We will know how much money that we get based upon the number of entities that apply for the funding. So we probably won't know how much we get until probably sometime in January. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Anybody have any questions of Pete? This is, are we technically, is this are we technically doing an application, or we're just agreeing to accept whatever money we get from them?
It's a grant agreement that goes through a statutory process of how they distribute the money. We're not asking for a certain amount. We're just asking for our share. So, yeah, that's the way that process works. It's a form, and I believe that it should have been in your packet, litter abatement grant packet that I sent out today. It didn't change from last year in any way. This is just an annual request.
Can I have a motion to accept?
I think it's a great opportunity to get Kentucky state tax money back to Louisville and for a good cause. And I'll make a motion that we put in this grant application.
Very well said. Do we have a second?
This is Deidre.
Okay, we have a motion by Mary Rose, a second by Deidre. Is there any other discussion, questions, or comments by board members? Okay, Pete, would you call the roll, please?
Mary Rose Evans,
Yes.
Robert Schindler,
Yes.
Carl Brazen,
Yes.
Deidre Shipley,
Yes.
Robert Lee.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you all very much. And I assume that will be part of your staff report once we know how much money we're getting for this fiscal year
Yes.
or
Yes,
next
sir.
fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay, number 3, education outreach campaigns.
Okay, so I'm gonna let Karen take this one for now. To kind of talk about where we're at. Karen, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. So last month, we had Field Trip with us at our meeting, and they presented kind of reported on the first campaign that we did, which was successful. And now we're ready to talk about our next campaign. We had originally thought we might request funds, but at this point, we actually might not want to do that tonight. So I just want to give you a little feedback on where we're at. So we had originally talked about trying to do a new campaign that involved recycling. But after some discussions, we thought we may actually want to do continue with the litter campaign as a refreshed campaign. So and one of the reasons for that is we think that it would be kind of a more efficient use of our funding. It will take some extra money to start on a different topic because there's preliminary work that has to be done, kind of like we already did with litter. So a new campaign that it involves kind of what they would call a refresh of what we already did a lot of the money would go toward the media rather than a lot of money having to go towards something new. Now, we may want to ask for that in the future, but that was kind of where we were leaning. But we are planning to meet with the Field Trip team next week to kind of go over a little bit more in detail of what we kind of told them we wanted to be very clear about what exactly the money goes toward, and not really in general terms, but in very specific terms, because it's a little hard to wrap your head around sometimes what it costs for things. And the media, meaning those ads and things that get promoted, they have what they call reach. And the more money you put behind it, the further reach they have. So when you put a lot of work into something, but you don't put a lot of money behind that media campaign, the reach doesn't go very far, and it's not a really good, efficient way of using money. So we just really want to make sure we're doing right by funding that we receive, and that we can also give you all the most specific details about how that money is being used. And we just got that scheduled today, and I'd be happy to include Carl again if Carl wants to come. It's next Thursday. It will be in person. We could do virtual if we needed to, but I can go. I don't know, Pete, if you want me to go into any more detail about the options that they gave.
I would think in general, I think that they understand the campaign that we did last time, and the refresh is pretty, to a certain extent, self-explanatory. I think the option that we really haven't touched on is the amplify the existing recycling message, but I don't think that we're even ready for that, but you can tell them a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we first asked for basically some good ideas to bring to you all tonight, one thing that well, first of all, having an all-out recycling campaign is possible. It would cost about the same amount that it costs to do the litter campaign, but a lot of that money goes toward creative. So they included something that they called education program support. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought it could relate to the work we're doing in our education subcommittee. We're talking about trying to create a consistent message, and maybe having some materials that are available to anyone in the county that would, give them the same important information about recycling, and lead them even to a web page that can link off to more specific based on their scenario or location. So, so we started thinking that if we wanted to go with something more like that as kind of an add-on, that could be a separate ask later. And I thought it would be really nice to go along with some work that's being done on that subcommittee level. And I do my best on creating information and a flyer or content, but it's a lot. And having a recycling message with their help and incorporating that into outreaches, classes, festivals, anything that we do, along with this consistent education through the haulers, and the that's part of what the subcommittee work has been done. I think it would go a long way. So, Pete.
Actually, Karen, I wanted to just add 2 cents in there really quickly.
Yes.
And I think I may have mentioned it last time. I had some conversations with TARC, and TARC has an initiative that they want to do about cleaning up. And I had mentioned to them about some of the things that we're doing, but I think there's an opportunity for a partnership there with TARC. And so I had suggested to them, or talked to them about, or asked them about meeting with us, or Pete and you guys and you, Karen, and they were like, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, that's good to know.
What I'll do is try to see if I can't move that forward and get the right parties together.
That sounds great. And we did mention that with our chat with Field Trip, and told them that well, they were on the call last month, so they heard it too. They knew about the idea of trying to partner, and so I think it's definitely a time to think outside the box and see what something special we can come up with there.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I just joined this meeting for the first time. I'm a JCPS parent trying to get 4 or 5 JCPS schools to recycle. And I don't know the background to the education campaign, but I really feel that setting flyers doesn't really work effectively. You just need to get a club or a science teacher or the environmental club on board, and have ambassadors, kids who are ambassadors to their fellow students and just sit around at lunch and say, well, your can does not go in the trash. You know, just kind of like hands-on message, because in the 18 years my kids have been in school, I have not seen much difference. And I know the city is trying really hard, and I'm coming as an outsider, but it just feels like when my daughter, who was the president of Atherton's Environmental Club, they did Atherton on Air, and they educated their peers about composting and recycling. They did a lot of this hands-on training to their peers. I think that's, in my opinion, when you take ownership as a school community, either as a student or as a teacher. I think that's how you make change, because I've seen flyers, they throw them in the trash. I mean, I'm sorry, it just feels like I cringe every time I volunteer and see the amount of trash that goes in the amount of recycling that goes in the trash. So I don't know to what extent you're addressing like ambassadors and sponsor teachers and sponsor clubs, because everybody wants to do it, but you have to have leadership within the school. It's often not the principal, but some teacher cares or some club cares, and they have to take on the lead, in my opinion, to make a difference. And I think when the kids take ownership of these programs, things change. Maybe when the leadership change, maybe they go back to how they were, but I feel it is the most effective way for the school to take ownership of their recycling and educate their community, kids, staff, parents, and it kind of expands from there. But that's my take on, you know, recycling in schools.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of the subcommittee work that I was referring to is residential, and trying to have consistent messaging among all the haulers that, and then I do some work with the Partnership for a Green City that's a combo of JCPS, Metro, JCTC, and U of L. And so that's where some of that work is done on trying to, you know, get some good things going on in the schools. But that's a beast all of its own. Thanks for joining us at this meeting. And I know that we'll connect more when it comes to school recycling.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You do raise a good point. In the past, we have had varying degrees of involvement with the school district. I know at one time we were actively doing waste audits in various schools, and like you say, some schools take off with it, other schools don't. And I can't honestly say that I know right now what the status of recycling is in Jefferson County Public Schools. And
I'd say we had really good momentum before COVID hit. And it's just now starting to get back as far as they had some supply chain issues and had to go back to styrofoam trays, and they've just now moved back to cardboard. So some things that were progressing well kind of got messed up. And then, but I would say there's some good things happening. It's just can be very overwhelming. Every school, you know, there's a lot going on, but every school does recycle. It's just at what level. So so we need to just keep pushing for schools to recycle at a higher level, which the highest level would include cafeteria recycling. The lowest level is really just the behind the scenes facilities recycling, and middle would be in the classrooms.
okay, anything else, Karen, you want to add, or Pete?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we pretty much decided that we didn't want to do a funding request just yet, because I think by next month we can bring to you a much more specific ask that's might even be kind of a la carte. So you know exactly what you'd be getting. And if you think it seems expensive, what would be the difference if we didn't spend as much, and just have us, we learned a lot in the last campaign, but we want to be better prepared to share with you what goes along with the message. And I would love if anyone has any feedback on the decision to do litter, to continue litter messaging as opposed to switching to recycling, I'm all ears. That's just kind of where we were leaning.
Yeah, that's kind of a hard decision to make, because recycling goes, if it works well, goes a long way to waste reduction. But also, this community spends an inordinate amount of money, I think, cleaning up after people. So it's a hard decision.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions, comments from board members? Okay, thank you, Karen, and thanks, Carl, for your continued involvement on this part of it. Guess we move then to new business. Pete.
Yes, sir. Okay, so it's been a while since we have done let me share my screen again. It's been a while since we've done an illegal open dump grant process. And I think the two largest that we've done, one was out in Valley View, out in the PRP area, which was about a $500,000 cleanup that took pretty close to 9 months. And then we had the one down on Garland, which was a 3-year cleanup that cost well over $500,000. And those were large cleanups. Now, it's available to us every year. And this may be a year that we make application for a couple smaller illegal open dumps that we have. So an illegal, just a little bit of background is, because I did send this out in the packet, an illegal open dump is defined by the law, and it basically says that if it's more than 2 cubic yards in a consolidated area, it's considered an illegal dump. Well, to imagine 2 cubic yards is about the size of a pickup truck loaded with junk. So these qualify that we're going to talk about. If you're over over $50,000, there isn't the match. If you're under that, then there is a match of 25%. These applications have to be in before November 1st, but they're not paid out for a while. You can go ahead and conduct these grants at any time and make application, because some dumps need to get cleaned up sooner than others. So I wanted to bring your attention to a couple of dumps. One is the Louisville Avenue illegal open dump, and another one is at Woodlawn. And these are abandoned homeless encampments, and they're very different in what we do. Metro typically would clean these up using equipment and personnel, and we'd be done and gone. What makes these unique is they're both next to overpasses, and they're on these steep inclines. So you can see this one at Louisville Avenue. This is I-264, Almond Avenue, and Louisville Avenue right here. While this picture was taken a while back through satellite, you can see that the camp was there. The camp grew quite a bit since these pictures were taken. And I would say that it takes up pretty much most of this right here. It is intertwined with all the trees and brush. And these hillsides are very steep. It doesn't look like it, but it is very steep. So steep that you can't put equipment on it. And it has a lot of boulders. And if you understand cleaning up encampments, there are special risks that come with that. So we do not want to send Metro crews there. We want to bid this out. Just due to the nature of it, we can't, it's a little bit dangerous. Some of our guys are a little older, and working on that steep incline amongst boulders and stuff probably isn't a great idea for us. So this, when you get up into there, this is typically what you're going to see. And the houseless people were up at the top, and they basically rolled stuff down into the bushes, and it goes all the way down to the fence, which is a good 35, 40 feet. It is all intermixed. To clean this, it is going to take a lot of labor. At one point, we thought that we was going to have to cut down a lot of the trees, in which we could. There still may be some of that. But the state is concerned a little bit about cutting down trees that have root systems into these embankments, which could destabilize the embankments. So this is one of the sites that is very difficult for us to get. So we may be making an application on this. This is another one that is actually down the road. This is the Woodlawn overpass. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. It's out next to the airport. And it's on both sides. The one on the south side here is the one that's more significant. This one is less significant. And you can see just by this picture here, they've made a path back in there, dragging a bunch of stuff into that. A few more pictures up in there is you can see all of the different things. It's kind of very difficult to see with all of the vegetation that is in there. This is on the other side. You can see why we can't get any equipment up there because there's a barrier. And even then, it's still very steep. So I couldn't get up there, getting a little too old to jump the barrier to get up there to take pictures. But it moves on up, and it's not nearly as big as the other one. So these two, Woodlawn and Louisville Avenue, are not huge dumps. They don't have a lot of material, but the material is tough to get to, and it's a little dangerous to get to it. You think of the needles and everything else that comes with it. So that's why we're looking at doing this. We have gotten one quote that come up to total of about $20,000. So we know that we're not going to get the $50,000, and we're going to have some expenses. We're hoping that we can get those expenses covered through in-kind services about us hauling the material away, but I'm not sure if that's going to cover it all. So really, I mean, if it comes down to it, we're talking about probably less than $3,000 to $4,000. But these camps need to get cleaned up. They've been there for quite some time, and we need to get them moved out so it doesn't keep occurring there. So these are things that I know that we have under new business. We're not asking for an approval of the application. I'm getting this on your radar to answer any questions that you may have and to see where we're going to go with this. So just wanted to bring it to your attention. So if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Pete, I have a question. Is this type of cleanup considered like hazardous cleanup? So would it be considered like, because of, I'm assuming, especially when you have homeless, there could be needles and things like that. So would it be considered like hazardous cleanup, or?
It's not hazardous waste. It's not classified in the hazardous waste side of things, but it is got unique hazards that are different than like a construction and demolition debris cleanup. So yeah, you're right. There has to be special precautions, certain boots, gloves, usually Tyvek suits that we go in there. Sometimes it's even some types of masks if there's going to be a bunch of dust in the air. So not classified as a hazardous materials cleanup, but it's certainly a hazardous cleanup.
I have a question. Who owns the land on both of these locations?
So it gets complicated. I believe that both of them sit on state property. I believe that the Woodlawn overpass is a state road, and obviously 264 is a state road. As far as the responsibility of the cleanup of these, the states made it clear to us that they don't clean these types of camps up. And Jennifer may be able to speak a little bit better about the relationship that we have with the state right now to get these done. I know that there's been some back and forth and what we're going to do. Jennifer, I hate to put you on the spot. Is that something that you can speak to?
I know that we are kind of just starting some discussions with the state as far as expanding our ability to patrol areas like this. But as far as cleanup we kind of chatted this morning. And I don't know that they are actively taking steps in that direction at this time. I don't know that it's off the table, but to my knowledge, it's not something that they're doing.
So
It's interesting. I think that when I was reading about this, one of the criteria was that if you couldn't get the property owner to do it, then the city or the waste district should do it. And when the property owner is the state, the ones giving us the grant, that's just, there's so much irony in it.
I agree. It's a frustrating point, but sometimes we have to step up to.
Oh, I don't
It's good
disagree.
that-
I think we should do it. I'm just saying it's just the delinquent property owner is the state that's giving us the grant, so.
Well, particularly when we end up putting a little bit, I mean, it's not gonna be much, but we're gonna be putting a little bit of money into this, whether it's in kind or direct money, we're gonna be paying local money. Well, yeah, local money to clean up a piece of state property that for whatever reason they have declared they're not gonna do. So, but I do agree, it's in our community and it needs to be eliminated.
Oh, definitely.
So unless anybody has any other questions on it, that's all I had for tonight. Maybe we'll hear something about it at the next meeting before November, just as long as we get our application in.
All right. If there are no other questions from anybody, we'll move on to the next item.
Okay. Oops. Here. So the next item is our full service recycling centers and citizen expectations. We have previously and many years ago used inmates to supplement our one staff recycling center specialist that is at our full service sites. The full service sites are the green sites on this map, all in suburban areas. And when COVID hit, we couldn't use them anymore. So the site became more of staff assisted to try to help people out. Since COVID has relaxed itself somewhat, the expectation of citizens is that we would have those same people out there now to give the same service that they got before COVID hit. One of our issues is that the inmates that we have received over the years have changed in character quite a bit. And I think that that is related to the opioid crisis. And they became much more difficult to handle. And they come with a lot more risk. I won't go into everything, but one of the issues that we had at the recycling center was that when people come in to drop off recycling, if they have a connection to someone on the outside, that person can come to drop off recycling and drop off drugs. And we won't know it because it's so small. You can't watch them that close. And potentially some of that material can get back into the jail. And then, our site is providing the drugs that go into the jail. We don't want that. We discovered at one point that somebody was coming in and they were testing them and they were coming back positive coming from our site. So that was one of the issues. The other issues that we had was that they were leaving running basically, and we can't chase them. We're not going to do that. So that, all of those risks were fairly high. So we chose not to bring them back, which doesn't match the citizen expectations. We've used some modified duty people that were injured here at SWIMS, which works sometimes. But those guys and girls that were injured typically have to take breaks and they sit down. And citizens who are already wanting that full service again sees a modified duty person sitting there and believe that they should be up there helping when they're actually injured and can't do as much. So where we're sitting now is we're going to have to reset expectations of the public. And so we are going to try to move away from full service to assisted service in our signage, in our websites, in the literature that we do, to try to get that word out. And I think if we can reset that expectation, then some of the issues will resolve. Our people are instructed that if they see somebody that's elderly or obviously handicapped in any way, they should focus on them. But some of these sites will have 6, 7 cars in them all day. And with one person out there, they cannot help every single car. So we do the best that we can. We've also changed the type of dumpsters. Lots of times we've had the roll-off dumpsters where you almost have to pick the stuff up and go about 7 or 8 feet to drop them in. We've changed those to a lower level dumpster that is much easier for people to utilize. So we're trying to make these adjustments and try to reset this expectation. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys was aware of this issue, and because this is funded by the Waste District. And if you guys have any questions or concerns to bring to us, please feel free to do so. We try to respond to these questions to people individually, but we can't go publicly and say, well, we can't go back to inmates because of what I've told you here tonight. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll be happy to answer.
I have a question. If staffing is the issue, one of the key issues, why not add one extra staff member that moves from each of the, 3 or 4, and fills in when the permanent staff is unavailable or takes a break? So just increase the staffing because I think a lot of people, if they don't get a system, they're not going to continue recycling, especially, the city is not providing the services at home as it should. I think I've heard a lot of complaints from people who live outside the Highlands area where they just don't get recycling picked up, or their developer doesn't pay for it. They're trying to do the good deed and recycle, but I think it discourages people if they don't have the assistance, because all of them are elderly. I mean, I have a lot of elderly friends who are driving, who are taking, for example, my church's recycling, and tries to take them to one of these centers to recycle. So I think increasing the staffing would make sense to me, especially if it could be part-time, which kind of helps out at the different existing the existing staff members.
Increasing staff is certainly one of the things that we can do. The site is funded through Waste Management District funds, not federal government general funds. When a lot of the funds that we have, if we increased it by 1 person at each site, it's almost doubling the budget that we would have for that. Now, I'm not opposed to that if we can afford that, but that's even a little bit more difficult. Plus, you're going to have vacations. You're going to have people call out, which is going to be difficult. And trying to focus on the people that need the assistance is something that has been our attempt to do right now. So I'm not sure that we can increase our staffing without hurting the budget quite a bit, especially considering what I'm getting ready to bring up here in just a minute.
Well, Pete, I would point out that if we double the staff, we're not going to double the amount of recycled material that we're getting in. And so it's not making a lot of sense for us to double the staff.
Yeah, I would agree to a certain extent. I think that in our 5-year plan, we did discuss the potential for expanding these sites to bring more people in, to bring different materials in, to renew them. And our goal was to increase participation through bringing in more materials. And at that point, hopefully we can afford the extra staffing to do so. So that's our goal. We're not quite there yet, but hopefully, we're starting to do a little bit at the Outer Loop site by removing a trailer to increase space so that we can bring additional dumpsters in that can accept additional materials. But Outer Loop is our busiest site by far. And it's not uncommon to have 6 or 7 people lined up. And even if we had 2 people, we still couldn't help every individual that comes in. So I think resetting some expectations is a must. And we look towards efficiencies and improvements in staffing down the road when we can.
Just based on the previous level of service that people came to expect at those centers was considerably higher than I have seen in any other recycling centers that I have observed, in traveling around the country, going to meetings, just vacations, just sticking your nose in and looking. We had established a pretty high level of service because we were getting pretty decent, at one time, pretty decent inmates that their goal was to get the heck out of that facility for the day and be able to do something other than just sit around the cell. And because of, if we tried to restore it to that level by hiring staff, it would be a huge impact on our budget because staff is the biggest part of most operating budgets. So unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to be able to afford to staff them at the level that people became used to. So it's going to take some innovation and some thinking on the part of staff just to see what we can do here.
I think that we'll continue to work towards finding some solutions to that. Maybe it's community volunteers that will come in there and work. It doesn't really solve a problem of really what we need, but if we can tell people that, hey, this is the busiest time. If you can come in and work for 4 or 5 hours volunteer wise, that would be great. I can tell you that there are those people out there. Not as much as there used to be, but maybe that's something that we can start to discuss. I see Deputy Mayor George has already.
I'm sorry, was somebody getting ready to say something?
I have a question. Excuse my ignorance. I've never been to one of these sites. So I am used to having a recycling site where you have a lot of dumpsters and people go, that's clear what goes in each. So why are people there? I mean, what do they do? They're fully staffed. I mean, I don't get it. Why do you need people to be there?
So our fully staffed sites accept recycling in a separated manner, whereas our self-serve sites are commingled, recycling everything in the same. So we like to separate out the paper, the tin, and stuff like that because it brings more money. But we also accept used motor oil, used antifreeze, and used cooking oil at that site, which you just don't want anybody to walk up and just pour that off. So yeah, so they're really good sites. And the guys out there do a really good job, but it can be a little bit overwhelming.
Just a quick question, Pete. The site out there that we recently have had to move in Middletown, how did that site compare customer-wise, volume-wise with the Outer Loop?
Well, I would tell you that we don't know exactly how many people visit a self-serve site. But before we did some when we knew that we was going to close that, we had people go out there for certain times to try to take samplings to find out where people were coming from so that we knew an area that we would want to try to put the new site. We believe, and based upon volume, it was the busiest site, regardless of it was a full service site or not. We was filling up sometimes 4 30-yard dumpsters a day, every day. So we would have to be out there multiple times every day, all day, 7 days a week. And it didn't matter. So it really hurt when that site went down. Another site that went down that we changed, we closed the site at Whips Mill. We had a full service site there. We changed that to a self-service site. And over time, the self-service site actually was getting more material than the full service site. But what we missed was the used motor oil, used, those types of things. Plus, we have to pay to have the commingled material separated. When it comes in and it's separated into, as we collect it, we get funding for that. And you can kind of see that in our budget. Well, maybe not yet this year, but on any given year, we'll get $50,000 in recycling income from what we collect. Whereas we're probably paying, $29 a ton when it comes in cold mingled. So there is the difference.
Yeah, that goes right to the point I was getting ready to make, but I wanted some confirmation of it. Is by far the busiest site then was a unmanned site. So what we did was we created an expectation over the years at these 3 full service sites. And what we're having to deal with is a change in expectation at those sites, because obviously an unmanned site can handle the volume, and the people can get used to doing that sorting. So just something we're going to have to work through.
I believe Deputy Mayor George has her hand up.
Thanks, Pete. And forgive me because I feel like we've had this conversation before and I came in late. But remind me, what was the problem to be solved with the inmates? Why are they no longer viable?
You kind of went up and down.
Why are the inmates no longer viable? Why is that no longer a viable option?
The risk with the inmates, the character of the inmates changed over the years. Before we even had COVID, we had issues with people bringing in material that had drugs in it. That inmate gets that stuff and that actually went back into the jail. And we discovered this because they started to test them as they was coming back in and was finding the material on them. The only place that they could have got it was at our sites. There were other incidents of inmates running. We can't chase them down. There isn't a officer that's there. They're in our care. So the amount of inmates that were running was increasing. A lot of the issues, the nature of them was they were more susceptible to getting hurt. They wasn't watching what they was doing. And to be honest with you, one staff member to watch 3 inmates at a site like that is impossible for them to be everywhere. We actually installed cameras so that we can keep an eye on them so they couldn't get into a little hidden spot. So it's a risk to have.
Okay, so I hear a lot of issues. Were these dismiss workers?
We did use dismiss workers.
Okay. And then my other question is kind of what you had alluded to, which was use of volunteers. And I know you guys have Know Your Ambassadors, because I see them out in the community doing really great work. Are they able to help serve? And I know volunteers are limited, but perhaps if we optimize their time by isolating the busiest times, could we use those folks?
We can certainly ask. We put it out to them for like the pop-up drop-off events to volunteer at. So that could just be another thing that we offer, and I have not done that.
And I don't know that that's the full answer, but I do like that as a suggestion. Okay, thank you.
I have an obvious suggestion. Why don't you make the screening of the inmates very intensive? So I'm sure the people who live with these with inmates or who oversee them know that they can pick among them, and so make it something that, I don't know, give them $2 an hour. Make it something that a lot of people apply, but very few get, and you get the cream of the crop, if you can say that, for inmates. But get the most honest, serious inmates with the ones that are trying to change their lives, and sort of get those back out there, even if it's not as many. Just get one good one for every side.
So that process is decided by the jail because they have to be of a certain level of offender, and they do get special privileges to come out. So that is there, but the inmate gets to choose whether or not they want to participate. And if they don't want to come out, they're not forced to. And sometimes you can get a good one, and that's great, and you can keep them around until they need to go. The answer to that is a tough one. Screening them is not on our plate, that we can't do it. The risk that if they come out there and start working, to recognize that they're going to be a problem and send back is a tough one, because you just never know what they're going to do. So I like that, and I think that that's an obvious thing to do, and it was being done before. It was just that we used them for litter a lot, and the same issue was happening in that regard as well. It was just risky.
Another alternative is, thing that comes to mind. If you like recycling separate, why don't you ask us to separate paper from the rest? Because, a lot of places do it. So if that's so valuable, let us do it in our homes, and then you don't have to have these man centers. But maybe it's a very complicated answer, but I'm just very new to this, so I'm just posing like obvious, suggestions.
We would love for everybody to have recycling.
Okay, I think we will trust that the staff will keep us updated on this and the efforts that they are able to undertake. Let's move on. Thank you very much for everybody's participation in this discussion. Let's move on to the next item under new business.
Household hazardous materials drop-off site vendor contract. We've recently had to rebid this out due to the contract having gone 5 years. It becomes a rebid at that point. We recently did that, and we only had one bidder. And it's unfortunate that they kind of control things because they're the one with the lease to the building at this point. So we put it out, and just like everything else, the cost is going up. First, we have basically awarded this, but the vendor's not in compliance with the HRC, which is a problem. The price increase on this is.
Let me interrupt you real quick. What's HRC?
Human Relations Commission.
Okay.
The price increase is such that it's going to almost double our costs per year. Probably about $100,000 a year, which is huge. So, we have to change the dynamic here in a way. And one of the ways was we was talking about potentially us having the lease for that building, and then we could bid it out with us having it, so any vendor could could bid into that. We're not at that point yet. So we're going to be stuck with this for a while, at least for a year until renewal comes up. Anyway, we're at the point right now because we've been at such an impasse with trying to get them in compliance with HRC that we're at the point where we've got so much material, we're going to have to shut it down if we don't get it. And that's unfortunate because, I mean, we're going to turn off the only outlet for household hazardous materials in the county. We're the only ones that operate. So, but we cannot, in good conscience, keep accepting material when it's not being moved out of the site. That's irresponsible. So if we don't get the contract settled and complete and them in compliance by the end of the week, we may end up having to shut this down next Tuesday. I did not want to get to this point, but unfortunately, I think that's where we're at. So you may hear about this one again in the community as, hey, Metro shut this down and what are they doing? It's not something that we want to do. But this is the nature of the contracts nowadays. They are all increasing significantly, but this one went way up. And we did bargain to get some of the prices down, but it's still going to be a major impact on our bottom line.
If we had a contract with Veolia to operate the place, how come they're not moving stuff off site? That should be part of the contract, right?
It's not awarded and we've extended and we're at the end of our extensions. It's been trying to get them in compliance with the HRC. They blame the HRC. We're not in control of that. And we've been trying to get a solution for it. I'm hoping that we do soon.
Okay, reason I was asking, because in your thing there, you said that in your thing on the screen, it says the contract has been awarded.
The bidder has been told that they have won the contract. All they have to do is be in compliance with everything. And they're not in compliance. We was awarding it and they said, nope, they're not in compliance. And we've been trying to get them in compliance ever since. So I guess you're right. Officially, it's not been awarded until they comply with all of the requirements of the contract.
Wow, that's a tough one.
Yes, it is.
Are we the only government contract they have? Why are they not? I mean,
Well, they're a national company, so
yeah, but they must have other government contracts, other places where they have to have.
Rose, it's as somebody going through that right now. This is Andy with WM. That we're going through the same thing with Metro. It's an annual renewal. It's something that you just have to, at least for us, that we have to renew every year. It's specific to Metro, as opposed to something broader. I'm not sure what this company or even know who this company is, but it, as I found out, it is very easy to to be out of HRC compliance without knowing it.
Okay. Interesting.
So if nobody else has any other questions.
Pete, is like the mayor's office involved in this discussion? I mean, does the HRC report to the mayor? I'm not sure.
That's a good question. I don't know if they're a quasi-government entity or not.
This is Sumedha. So they are actually within the Office of Equity at the mayor's office. So I'm happy to connect you with someone there if you want to get some more clarity on what's needed for compliance and help expedite that.
Sure, thank you. I know that procurement has been in contact with them trying to work through the issues.
Okay.
Because I've been really pushing this hard to get this done.
It's getting to be, I mean, it's going to get to be a safety issue for Louisville because we're going to have hazardous waste building up somewhere. If it's not in our sites because we're not taking it, it's going to be in people's garages or somewhere. And we're going to have more 8 lane places.
Yeah, or on the side of the road.
Well, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a public safety issue at this point.
Yeah, we'll continue to work to try to get this done. I am hoping that by Friday, we have this completed and wrapped up, and we don't have to go that next step.
All right, thank you, Pete. Water step.
Karen, do you want to do this one?
Sure. Diane and I were doing an event at Brown Forman that they invited other organizations to, and Water Step was one of them. And we started talking to Ron that works with Water Step, and kind of landed on the fact that we should have a partnership because if you're not familiar with the organization, they collect shoes through donation, and they, well, I do have a video that explains exactly what they do, but basically it funds safe water, clean drinking water in countries that have that issue. So let's watch the little video and then I'll tell you more about what we're going to do.
You Grammarly Go,
I tried to keep the
your
commercial
go-to
out.
solution for getting quality work done quickly. You can look in any direction, see a pair of shoes, even have stores that their sole purpose. In addition, serve a variety.
Is everybody else's video audio going in?
The sound is not here. Yeah.
I don't know how I got control on that.
But what happens to those shoes when you can no longer wear them or don't want to? We typically throw them out. Did you know that an average of 300 million pairs of shoes end up in the landfill each year in the US alone? What if I told you there was a way to take your own shoes and turn them into safe, sustainable drinking water? Well, there is. For just 3 pairs of shoes, Water Step can provide safe drinking water for one person or another. So instead of throwing out your old and unwanted shoes, donate them to Water Step. You can get out the light on while keeping our planet safe and clean. Join Water Step in saving lives with safe drinking.
Okay, so I know the audio wasn't that great there, but so if you haven't already seen any drop-off locations around town, because some stores and organizations do this, Water Step basically allows for
Sorry.
it's okay. Shoe donation drives or just drop-off sites. They take those shoes, they sell them to an exporter, and the money goes directly toward the fact that they provide these filters and the maintenance of it and the teaching of the people in these areas of how to maintain them. So they do all this work toward clean drinking water. So based on all of their statistics, basically for every 3 pairs of shoes that are donated, you're providing one person with safe drinking water for their life. So anyway, so after talking and hearing all about this organization, which I've heard of, but when you really hear all the impact that they've made, it's quite impressive. And the other side of it is, like said in the video, which I could hear that part, was that I think it said 300 million pairs of shoes go into the landfill every year, just in America. So so our side is that shoes would be kept out of the landfill by offering this donation process. And in turn, you're not just doing that, but you're also helping give someone clean drinking water. So anyway, we met with Ron and decided that we would first, we're kind of blasting it out, trying to promote that we're going to offer a shoe drop off at our pop-up drop off event on Saturday. We have one at U of L Shelby campus. So we have the signs and like a little box holder thing that shows, it's again, if you've seen it around, you'd recognize the logo. So we're trying to get people out there knowing that they could also bring shoes to our pop-up event. And then also we would like to put a drop-off box. We'll put it in such a way that it is protected from the weather and very easy to move around, but we would like to have them at those staffed recycling drop-off locations that we were talking about. And then just be able to promote, that's one more thing that you can quote unquote recycle when you're there. So so that's, we just kind of wanted to share that because it's a, I believe, a great partnership, but also something that we're trying to add at those sites that are funded by the district. And I figured we'd put one up, a drop off in our office as well, you know, in the little reception area, just to have it there. All we do is call them at the drop offs that are ongoing. All we do is tell them when we have some shoes for them to pick up and they'll just come get them. For the event on Saturday, we're actually, they sometimes would be able to come to the event and help and then take the shoes away. But they have a huge event going on in Ohio. So we're just going to bring them back to our facility and they'll pick them up next week on Monday. But anyway, I'm happy to answer questions, or I'd love any feedback or thoughts about that.
Yep, Karen, I would want to add that this is a Louisville-based organization, not too far from our office, in fact. And it's not just other countries that these materials go to drinking water. They're also moving into disaster relief. And was actually, I believe that they helped in Eastern Kentucky during the floods that took place not too long ago. I'm not sure if they did in Mayfield after the tornado. I thought that I saw that. But I think this is a great organization. Their mission fits right in with the Waste District's mission. And we feel like that it can be really beneficial and we can help a lot of people.
I have a comment on this organization. My son was at NO a few years ago and they did a field trip at Water Step, and I chaperoned the field trip, which was very exciting because I've never heard of this organization. But an idea to kind of connect waste management with JCPS is to, just something that I just thought about, email the PTSA organizations of every school, because there's so many kids and they outgrow their shoes so quickly. If there was a box in every school and the PTSA in the newsletter mentioned it, I'm sure lots of parents would like to get rid of their children's outgrown shoes. And it just seems a very quick and easy way to collect a lot of shoes and help with the landfill, the waste management. I just feel like there's so many possibilities to connect these programs with JCPS, because you're reaching thousands of families. And they did it at NO after the field trip. So I think they collected a lot of things. But NO is one middle school. There's tons of schools all over the city. And I think it would help out the parents and it would also help the environment and the people who are on the receiving end. So that's just a thought about promoting this program in public schools. Thank you.
Yeah, good suggestion.
We did go to Bloom Elementary and they had their own water step box there. So they are being connected with JCPS schools already, but
Right.
I don't know to what extent, but one school did have their water step box. So,
Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Thanks, Karen and Pete, for getting this established.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
Yes.
sorry, but I have another meeting that starts right at 7. So I'm going to have to leave. Is there anything that we need to vote on before I go? And
No, we don't have any action items.
I apologize I did not expect the meeting to go quite this long. So I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Thank you very much for
I'm
being
I'm gonna stay as long as I can, probably another 5 minutes, but I just wanted to,
Okay.
we got involved in something else. So.
here. Update on the Metro Council resolution on plastics.
Okay, there's actually the Aiken Road self-service recycling site update first, if we could.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped over that. Go ahead.
It's okay. You guys know we've been working on this for a long time to replace the Urton Lane site. It took us forever to find a location in Middletown to put the self-serve site. We found it on Aiken Road with a partnership with Smith Creek Composting Facility. We finally made it. We drafted the lease. Everybody's agreed to the lease. We have made it finally through planning and design and MSD approvals. And we just got the order to notice to proceed. So the building of it can start to take place as soon as the vendor is ready. They tell us it'll take about 3 weeks to a month to build the site. And sometime during this month, we'll get the lease completed and signed, which has already been approved by this board. So we're this close to finally getting this done, which is a really nice thing to do.
Now all we have to do is hope that the usage comes back to the level that it was before, as we
I
built
think
up.
that it will. It's probably going to come back. Well, I don't know. It's hard to tell. The other site was extremely convenient. And I think a lot of the material was coming from businesses that would just load it up. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
The next item was the, am I sharing? I guess I'm, no. Okay. So the next item was the update on the plastic foodware, I believe, with Metro Council. Betsy Rui was the sponsor of that. And we had discussed it at the last meeting and was hoping that we could create a letter that was going to endorse that and, because it fits our mission as well. And we had to stop, I think, because there were some changes that came up. I've been in correspondence with Betsy. Right now, she is working with companies that deliver like Grubhub and those types of organizations to get their input. And I believe that she said at that point, a new resolution would be brought to the Metro Council to consider. So at this point, we're still a little bit in a holding pattern. I think if you have input or want to voice your support, you could always contact Betsy Rui, she's Metro Council person, to do so. I think it's been pretty clear that we support some type of move in this direction. So if there's no other questions, that would be the completion of old business.
All right. Advisory committee report. Do we have one?
I can talk on that, I guess. As you know, we are meeting as subcommittees on contracts and education. And the contracts committee actually did not meet this past time because we just didn't get involvement from outside. We're trying to work toward the construction and demolition sector there. So we have plans for our next meeting to have a couple people, actually 3 people that can kind of speak on that, and we're gonna meet with them ahead of time. One is through CEDRA, who I thought was a person at one point, but it stands for Construction and Demolition something or other Association. Yeah, and then some local people. So we'll have a better update for that, I would hope, next month. And then the Education Committee has, or subcommittee, has done a lot of preliminary discussions about that consistent messaging that we talked about. And the last meeting, we focused on West Rock and their accepted items list versus Rumpke's accepted items list. And we have what we call a MRF survey every year that has a very detailed description of what's accepted, not accepted, whether it's detrimental or all recycled, even if they get it, and things like that. So what we decided is to kind of focus on that portion of it first. We have a discussion coming up with Rumpke. I think that might be next week. It's on the calendar, and trying to make sure that what we decide to do as a district is comfortable with either of our local facilities, and in that idea of trying to be very consistent and with a goal in the future of having less confused residents. And I think we had some good discussion as a group, and we'll continue moving forward with that. And I did mention, you know, any kind of recycling outreach campaign, plus the other contract subcommittee finished the capture rate study RFP. It just hasn't made it through all the metro whatever you want to call it, that they have to approve everything. So it's not quite out there yet. But I think that is also going to just go nicely with education, because what we learn from that study is going to help guide where education needs to go. So a lot of this goes hand in hand.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I don't know, y'all brought up something about drums, I think, coming to the landfill. There's a new federal regulation about how to clean drums. They're very specific about it, so you want to be real careful about taking drums in. And also, we've talked about electric batteries, recycling. People are working on it, but no one's really making a whole lot of progress. So there are a bunch of people working on it, but it's still not where people can do it without blowing themselves up.
Are you talking about the vehicle batteries, Bruce?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I
am. We did talk about that in our 5-year solid waste management plan as find a solution there so that the state of Kentucky can be the battery,
they're working on it.
battery recycling capital of the world, which is where.
And I'll tell you something else. I saw a baler that will bale. What the hell's the stuff you can't recycle because it's too light. Styrofoam. It's unbelievable. It made really good bales. But how you get it all together in one place? But there is a method and a good baler that can bale it.
Cool.
I saw an ad for it, so that's just some BS I'm giving you.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce.
If I may say that the next meeting of the advisory committee will be a full advisory committee meeting. So it'll be nice to have everyone back in the room for a meeting. And I think it's going to be good to have everybody's input, and we should come out of it a little further down the road. Wouldn't you say, Karen?
Yes, I believe so. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
Anything else, Bruce or Karen?
Awesome.
Thank you both. Staff report.
I have listed the pop-up drop-off event, but I was a little bit premature because it's this weekend instead of last weekend. So really not a report. So my apologies for having that on the agenda.
I did do a quick math though for you, that we've had one every month since March, and we've had about 2,200 participants, which is right on track for our kind of average of 400 to 500 participants at each. So they've gone well this year, and council has been able to bring or to host 2 shredding trucks at our East End events because they tend to overwhelm us with document shredding. So that will be the case this Saturday at Shelby campus, and plus the shoes that I mentioned. And next month I can give you a report on that one.
All right, thank you. Somebody want to handle announcements?
Our next 109 board meeting is going to be September 27th. That's at 5:30. Our education subcommittee would be September 12th at 4. Contracts committee would be also September 12th, but that one's at 3. And our advisory committee is going to be September 20th at 4:30. All of these meetings are conducted via WebEx and open to the public. And we welcome anybody to attend.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions, comments from board members or members of the public? All right, hearing none. Yeah,
Can I speak, please?
yes,
Mr. Chandler, this is Jerry McGraw.
yes.
Can you hear me okay? I'm at another meeting and I wanted to try to raise a couple of questions. Hopefully it's
Yeah.
quiet enough that you can hear me. I'd like to begin by saying how much I appreciate everyone who is serving on this board. I once served as the chairman of the merit board, and I understand all of the time and the commitments and everything that go into serving on boards. And I deeply appreciate every person, every citizen who will participate in that. But I have concerns about the fact, as I review information, that all 7 members currently serving on the board are serving as a result of expired terms. Now, I know that KRS 65.008 provides that appointed members of district governing bodies can serve until the successors are appointed and qualified. However, KRS, let's see, pull that page up here. There's another KRS that specifies that the board shall not serve more, or that people shall not serve more than 3 consecutive terms. And when I look back at 65.008, the approval to continue serving until a successor is appointed says unless otherwise provided by law. And if we look at KRS 109.115 in paragraph 6, it says that members will not serve, specifically shall serve no more than 3 consecutive terms. It doesn't say 3 consecutive terms plus a day or until the next person has been appointed. So I have to question, there are 5 members on the board that I believe have served 3 consecutive terms, and I have to question the legality of their continuing to serve. And I feel like I need to raise this question, this concern, so that you all may consider it. I'm concerned about people who may not legally be in position or making appointments, making decisions and such. And I know that in law school, we talked about conflicts of law, but I just feel like I need to raise this concern so you all can look at it. And if I don't raise it, it may continue. I know at least one member of the present board has been on, I think, beyond the term since 2021. So anyway, that's what I wanted to raise. Have the concerns that you look at the statutes that are involved and see if it needs to be addressed.
All right, thank you, Jerry. That's so noted. Any
Okay.
other questions or comments?
No, that's all I had, was raising that issue about the continuation of people on the board beyond statutory limits.
All right. Hearing no one else, I'll entertain, if anybody's still here, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to
I
leave?
second.
So moved.
Motion and second. Thank you all very much. Thanks everybody for participating tonight. Appreciate you, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate you.
It's gonna, it just as a side discussion, it's going to be interesting to see. I